Next, from Springfield, we talked to Sam Toia, the president and CEO of the Illinois Restaurant Association, and get his thoughts on legislation affecting Illinois' service industry, including a potential rise in the minimum wage. This runs about 10 minutes.
Sam Toia, thanks for joining us on the Illinois channel. As you're here lobbying and talking with some of the lawmakers at the state capitol, what are the issues you're looking at, and what are you talking to the lawmakers about?
We're talking about quite a few issues. We just want to remind all elected officials and leaders in the state of Illinois how important the hospitality industry is here to the state of Illinois. It's all about guests and beds and diners and seats. And there's a lot of bills out there, meaning, raising minimum wage. We think, minimum wage has been raised at the city level and the county level. We think it should be raised at the state level too, but we think it should be a reasonable increase. We've worked with Senator Kimberly Lightfoot over the last few years, and we agree with her bill, but there's some out there like $15. Not sure that's the bill we really agree with, but again, we think there should be an increase in minimum wage, and Senator Kimberly Lightfoot bill is a bill that we could get behind. Also, you have the sugar tax bill. We're not really crazy about the sugar tax.
Which is a tax on sugary drinks. Right?
That's exactly right. And we're not crazy about that bill. We don't want to see that going anywhere. And then there's also a bill out there on the gift cards. When you buy a gift card, after 5 years, they want the money to go back to the state. Right now, what's in place is that if you buy a gift card at a restaurant and you give it to someone, that they cannot charge you a surcharge and it can never expire. So if they do expire after 5 years, what if someone comes in after 6 years? So we think what's on the books right now is really good. No surcharge, and they never expire.
Let's go back to the sugary drinks. What specifically are your complaints about having that tax?
Well, the point is that right now, if you buy a box, right now when you buy syrup for your fountain drinks, the box costs about $38. If you tax it, it will go to $78. And what if you have unlimited soda, and it's a penny an ounce? So what do you do when you come up to refill a soda? You say, give me 16 cents? It just does not make sense. And where do we go after that? Do we start taxing sodium in soup?
When we talk about the minimum wage, a lot of people aren't making minimum wage. They probably don't even know what the current minimum wage of Illinois is. What is it, and what would the Lightfoot bill bring it to?
Well, right now, depending where you're talking about entry-level wages, in the city of Chicago, it's at $10.50 an hour right now, and it's going to go up to $13 by 2013. In the state of Illinois, it's at $8.25 an hour, and Senator Lightfoot's bill would raise it up to $11 an hour over 3 years.
Is that something that most restaurants can live with?
Absolutely could live with the Senator Kimberly Lightfoot's bill.
How many people are employed in the restaurant industry in Illinois?
In the restaurant industry in Illinois, for 2016, there was 561,000 people employed in the restaurant food service industry here in the state of Illinois. We did over $25.2 billion in sales, and there's over 27,000 restaurants here in the state of Illinois.
Do you know how that compares with other states?
Yes, we're right. It's kind of like the population, so we're right in the top 5. Obviously Texas and Florida, New York might have more employees than us, but we came in right after that.
When we say restaurants, we kind of lump them all together, but of course they're not really all the same. You have some that are very high scale, maybe a seafood steakhouse place, and then you have the fast food chains.
Absolutely.
Of that employment, do you have a breakdown of how much would be, say, the fast food chain versus more the upper end?
Well, we don't really have a breakdown, but in the industry, really, you have your iconic restaurants, you have your chain restaurants, you have your chef-driven restaurants, you have your restaurant bars, you have your quick service restaurants. Again, when you add all those employees together, equals 561,000 people employed here in the state of Illinois.
And one thing I was just thinking of, we see these reports, there are some of the fast food restaurants, and this is probably going to be going forward a trend, where they're putting in kiosks and getting rid of people working the counter. Do you see that as a growing trend, and is it merely because technology is coming about, or is it in response to the rising price of minimum wage?
I would say it's a little bit of both. Automation has definitely been hitting the restaurant industry more and more. It's one of the last industry that automation has hit. We saw it hit the car industry over the last 15, 20 years, but you're absolutely right. There's more kiosks being done, and I think, as these chain restaurants and these quick service restaurants see this, you'll see more touchscreen kiosks going into place to, obviously, keep your labor costs down, because in the restaurant industry, there's only two things you can do to keep your costs down: food cost and labor cost.
And when we talk about a city like Chicago, it's like the third largest in the nation. We have millions and millions of dollars coming in from outside the state for conventions. How important is it to have quality restaurants to attract those conventioneers?
Well, nowadays, let's be realistic. It's all about conventions, tourism, and culinary tourism. The back half of the plane's all about tourism. The millennials grew up with the Food Network. So they grew up with these celebrity chefs, and we have some unbelievably celebrity chefs here in the city of Chicago, like Rick Bayless and Paul Kahan and Stephanie Iser, to name a few. And these millennials love to travel to these celebrity chef restaurants, and that's why you have all this tourism. When Mayor Emanuel took office in 2011, we had 39 million visitors to the city of Chicago. Last year, we hit 54 million visitors, and it had a lot to do with culinary tourism.
And before we let you go, one of those interesting phenomenons that started maybe about, 5 or 6 years ago is Chicago Gourmet. Tell us what that is and how successful has that been?
Absolutely. Chicago Gourmet is held every year, the third week in September in Millennium Park. It's a food and wine show, and it's one of the best food and wine shows in the country. I don't care what they say in Pebble Beach or what they say in South Beach. We have the best food and wine show right here in the city of Chicago, Millennium Park, every September.
And what do you get for your ticket?
Tickets, it's like all inclusive. It's a little under $200, but you get to taste premium wines from Southern Glazer Wines, and you get to taste foods from some of the greatest chefs in Chicago.
Yeah, and it draws people actually from just all over.
Absolutely, because it's all about guests in beds and diners in seats, and this is what Chicago Gourmet does. It highlights us as the culinary capital of the United States in Chicago.
All right, well, Sam Toia, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Was that good?
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.